All right, we're gonna watch this. Teen executed his family over a sleepover with girlfriend.
You'll also see no physical evidence tying Raymond Childs III to those weapons. No fingerprints, no DNA.
He shot his brother once in the back of the head as he was watching television. Next to Elijah in bed was Elijah's girlfriend, Kiara Hawkins. The defendant shot her once through her right ear.
A teenager killed nearly his entire family, all because he left home without permission. An Indiana jury has just convicted now 21-year-old Raymond Childs III of murdering 6 people, including a pregnant woman who was nearly due to give birth.
Your own family? Nah, dog. How can you have the courage enough to kill your family? Like, this is the thought process. Actually, just the aftermath. Like, them, like, laying down in a pool of blood. Like, how can you do that? And then if they, God forbid, if they was, living at the time they were wounded, what was their last words? What did they say to you after you just executed them like that? That's crazy. They don't fuck with you the rest of your life? Just because they caught your ass, sneaking out? Come on, man. That's every teenager done that. What?
Amid what prosecutors allege was an argument that turned deadly. We're going to sit down with criminal defense attorney Bob Bianchi to get to the bottom of this case and look ahead to the sentencing. Welcome to Sidebar.
Hey, his retwist is fresh as fuck. I know that was kind of a wild topic, just a wild come off. I'm just saying. Retwist is fresh as fuck.
Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. A jury deliberated for just about 3 hours before convicting 21-year-old Indiana man Raymond Childs III of 6 counts of murder in the brutal slaying of his own family members. And his conviction came months after a judge declared a mistrial the first time around after a witness in his first trial verbally confronted him in front of the jury. So the 21-year-old, he was arrested a day after this horrific crime back in January of 2021, where he fatally shot his father, Raymond Childs Jr., his stepmother, Kezi, the couple's daughter, Rita, son, Elijah, and Elijah's 19-year-old girlfriend, Kiara Hawkins, who was pregnant. She was just about to give birth. Now,
oh my God!
This absolutely heinous attack, and that was Child's 15-year-old brother, who in court documents is referenced only by the initials XC. He was shot, but he was able to flee the house and escape the gunfire. Now, according to the probable cause affidavit obtained by Law and Crime, XC told police what happened when he was rushed to the hospital. When XC was asked who shot him, he stated, Raymond Ronald Lee Childs III. And it actually gets more heartbreaking from there, because when he's asked about his parents, this is what he says. When medical staff spoke with XC about locating his parents so that they could provide further medical care, XC stated, he shot them, I think they're dead. And XC was just 15 years old. But he's not only just a lone survivor of this attack, but he is a key witness who provided firsthand information to police and prosecutors about the brutality that had occurred. We'll get back to that in a second, but I have to address what's the lingering question here. I'm sure all of you have. Why? What could have possibly led Childs to literally...
Dude, his life is fucked for the rest of his life. Both of them. The 15-year-old, he will never... Bro, you know how fucked up mentally that had to be? That is your brother executed your whole entire family? Your blood brother. Your blood, allegedly. But your blood brother. I can't imagine like 5 years from now when he's 20 years old, 21 years old, he can't trust nobody. He can't trust nobody. He can't make no friends because you don't know if his friends going back. That's paranoia. Like, that's crazy. This is a person you sleep right next to every day. You eat right next to him. You play basketball. Like, you had childhood memories with him. Fights, wrestling. Do I have to keep going? Just because of an argument going wrong, he ends up executing everyone else. Oh my God, this is so sad.
Execute almost his entire family. Apparently, it was due to a spat over whether he could stay the night at his girlfriend's home. Yeah, Childs actually left his family's home without permission to stay at his girlfriend's house, and according to the probable cause affidavit, it reads, JD, this is Childs' girlfriend, stated that on January 23rd, 2021, Childs III came over to her house to spend the night. While he was there, he got a phone call from his dad telling him to come home. JD stated that sometime between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning on January 24th, Childs III drove back over to the house on a white Chrysler. Childs III stated that his father had kicked him out. But we know that version of events is not true because Childs had actually gone home to kill his family before coming back to his girlfriend's house. To be clear, she didn't know about this when he came back, but a surprising phone alert would soon raise some suspicions for her. Why? It says, the probable cause affidavit, about 30 minutes after Childs III arrived back at JD's home, JD received an alert on her Citizens app that there had been a shooting on 36th Street. Soon after, there was another alert regarding a shooting on Adams Street, and this is where the family lived. JD asked Childs III if he knew anything about the shooting, and he said no. Now, if this isn't enough evidence so far that something terribly wrong had occurred, there's yet another suspicious situation that arises. This time, when JD drives Childs to a different residence in her Chevy Impala following the sleepover, listen to this part of the affidavit about the evidence that Childs actually left behind, wrapped in a bundle of clothes. Quote, when they left, Childs III placed the clothes by his feet in JD's car. When they got to where Childs III wanted to go, he took the clothes with him. Shortly after JD pulled off, she hit the brakes and saw a magazine clip, meaning a firearm magazine clip, fly forward on the passenger's floorboard of her Impala. Detectives, they obtained a search warrant on the girlfriend's vehicle. They did indeed recover this magazine clip.
Did it match?
That you can see right there. And detectives then tracked down Childs, arrested him after taking him to their homicide office. Now, I had mentioned earlier that Childs' younger brother, 15-year-old XC, would prove to be a very vital witness. But a few days after this incident, detectives talked with him more at the hospital, and he told them the exact timeline of the shooting as he saw it from inside that home. Quote, XC told them that before the shooting, his father had asked him to put some water in a bottle, so he went to the bathroom to fill it. At that point, he heard 2 gunshots. His father got out of bed, ran to the stairs, and said, "What was that?" He then heard his sister RC say, "Raymond shot Elijah." Another gunshot went off, and he heard his dad say, "I'm sorry, Raymond, I love you." Wow. Now, XC was still inside the bathroom. "Raymond, I love you." It went off, and he heard his dad say, "I'm sorry." Another gunshot went off, and he heard.
Wow. Your last words after you just execute your dad. 6 or 7 rounds he put in his father's. That's crazy. Wow. Wow, man. I'm sorry, Raymond. I love you. That's his last words. Wow.
Heard his dad say, "I'm sorry, Raymond,
This
I love
is
you."
so fucking insane.
Now, XC was still inside the bathroom, makes his escape at this point, but Childs chases him outside. He even offered his older brother money to not kill him, promised he wouldn't say anything, but Childs shoots him in the leg, shoots him again in the arm. And XC was somehow able to make it into a neighbor's home until police arrived, and he was rushed to the hospital. He made a miraculous recovery despite being quite serious critical condition. And as for the firearm in this case, there were actually 2 that were used. Police were able to recover one in the basement of the family's home, and the other they were able to retrieve after they received a call from a person who actually picked up Childs after the murder. He apparently told police when Childs III got into the truck, he was armed with a Draco.
How does this end up a mistrial? How the hell?
Firearm that AV recognized as belonging to Raymond Childs Jr. AV told Childs III to give him the gun because AV had a permit to carry the firearm, and Childs III complied. This witness, known as AV, then handed that weapon over to police. and you can see it pictured there. Police were able to match some of the spent shell casings found at the scene to the weapon, and the other casings were matched to the 9mm handgun that was found in the basement. So with all that in mind, now we have a guilty verdict. I want to bring in a special guest to break all of this down. Criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, friend of the show, Bob Bianchi. Bob, thank you so much for coming on. It's really, really good to see you. What are just your initial impressions?
I don't even know
and
what to
thoughts
say,
on a case
man.
like this?
Hey, Jesse, thanks for having me on. Love the show, love the format, and of course, always love working with you. I think that when you get to be my age and you've been doing homicide work as a trial lawyer, both as an assistant prosecutor when I first started my career, now advancing some decades later and having done it on the defense side, the thing when I was reading this that struck me was the senselessness with the murder cases that we see today. And this one is probably about as senseless a murder case than I've ever either handled or reviewed. And what I mean by that is when I was in the homicide squad when I first started out, we would kind of like case compare, and we would say, oh, this case is really crazy, or this one's got some, something interesting element to it. I know that sounds kind of macabre, but this is what you do when you're handling murder after murder after murder. But the thing was, back then, what strikes me now is that there was always something where the motive made sense. You may not agree with it, but whether it was money or drugs or gang violence or infidelity, you could put your arms around the reason why the person did the thing that they did, despite how horrific. I handled one where they poured gasoline on a pregnant woman and lit her on fire. So the murder itself is horrible, but you understood the underpinnings of it. Today, when you see something like this, it just seems to me that there's a massive desensitization of individuals. There's no bar in terms of the conduct, and to me it's almost like an automaticity. It's like I'm angry and I'm gonna lash out in as big a way as I can. Now I think it's actually reflective of a social decay, a breakdown in the mores, if you will, of society, mental health issues that aren't being addressed. Because it's very difficult for me as a seasoned homicide prosecutor and defense lawyer to look at the calmness of this conduct. One of the things we look at as a homicide prosecutor, because we're worried about mental health offenses coming in, like passion provocation or something that minimizes it for murder and lowers it, maybe an insanity defense, is we look at goal-oriented behavior. And that's what psychologists will look at. What was occurring just before, obviously during, and after, to see whether or not
I just want to know, like, what made him get triggered of doing this. Like, I want to know. You know how, like, if you ever watched the Menez brothers, how they kill their own family, and I'm hearing that they might get out, which is crazy. But when you watch the Netflix series and you realize how they were treated with their parents and stuff like that, the father did some crazy stuff to the kids to the point they just couldn't take it no more and end up executing the family. And, when you look at from both sides, it's wrong. You shouldn't kill your family at the end of the day. That's kind of crazy work, but I understood their side. They were abused. They were just crazy allegations from the dad and stuff like that, and stuff backs up later on of another witness later on came forward. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm not trying to say that happened to him, but you don't know their relationship between him and his dad. We just know what happened. And I don't know where the mom's at. Where's the mom at? That's the thing, too. So I just want to just put two together to see what caused. Because they had encounters before of them arguing and stuff like that. I just want to know what made just start of him going off like that. That's not normal, bro. Damn, man. It just fucks me up because he said, Raymond, I love you. I'm sorry, Raymond, I love you. And that didn't change your mind. You didn't realize what you were doing. You didn't snap out of it. Your father look in your eyes and say, I love you, I'm sorry, then you end up killing him, bro. That's so insane. Your brother begged you, say, don't shoot, I will pay you. Why you're shooting him? Wow, man, that's cold, man. That is
person was
fucking
acting
cold.
with
You need to get the chair, dog. You don't deserve, bro. You need to get the chair. And I don't even like to say those things, but some motherfuckers need to get the chair, and you one of them, dog. That's wild. And you know the reason why I don't want to say it, because your brother's still here, and you know he still loves you at the end of the day, but you fucked him up so in the head mentally to the point he hates you and love you at the same time. And he got to deal with that the rest of his life. That he loves you, he don't want nothing to happen to you if you do get the chair, but at the same time the nigga hates you. He gonna go to himself by himself one time. He be thinking about all the horrors and the things you did to him, bro. The nightmares. He gonna hate you, dog. He gonna have that love, but at the end of the day, he gonna hate you, bro. That's just fucked, bro. I feel bad for that little dude, bro.
Purpose.
Fuck, man. This is not good.
And you see that throughout all this. There's purpose and there's intention, but the gravity and the response to the stimuli, if you will, that is his father telling Ken sleep with his girlfriend, created.
And you could tell the dad look like a stand-up guy. You know what I'm saying? You could tell the dad's like, you know what I'm saying? He trying to like get shit, man. I don't know the father. I'm not saying he's the best father. I'm not saying. I'm just saying like. Just based on, you could tell, like, you know, you care about his kids, but damn.
Admirable. So that was my initial impression. Sorry for the long thing, but you read something like this, and my big thing was, as a defense lawyer, I got to get this guy over to a psychologist as quickly as possible to see if I can establish a psychiatric defense.
What struck me is these appeals to his emotion. His father saying, Raymond, I love you. His younger brother saying, please don't shoot me, don't kill me. I won't say anything. And he just continued through. It's such a chilling thing to think about anybody doing this to another human being, but doing this to your own family members.
Yeah.
No mercy whatsoever. That's what really, you know, is so chilling and sticks with me. I did want you to put on your prosecutor's hat for a second, because we talked about some of the evidence. What did you think were some of the strongest?
突然申し訳ございません。29万以上の借金を返済中の方を緊急
pieces of evidence that the prosecution had on him?
Oh, well, I guess I can answer that by looking at it as a defense lawyer. Like, as a prosecutor, what I say to myself is, and it's kind of like backwards, like, what is the defense going to do? Or how is the defense going to try to make an argument here? And so I'm evaluating it from both perspectives. When I was looking at this case, I was thinking to myself, where is the defense going to go with this case? And as a prosecutor, I think that there's very little that I would be concerned with, because I think when you ask what is the most significant piece of evidence, I don't think there's a particular piece of evidence, but I think it gets to something that you just talked about, the chilling nature of the reaction to such a low stimuli is something that I think is the most powerful concept for the prosecutor in the case. So it's very difficult I've had cases where the person was completely mentally incapacitated, had no idea what it was that they were doing. They've got a long history of psychiatric issues. They decompensate off their medications and basically could not form an intent to kill.
What did he do? Here, he just murdered his whole entire family because his father said come back home because he went in his girlfriend's crib and he snuck out. That's what happened. He executed his father, his sister, while she was pregnant. That's crazy, yeah. And the only person that survived was his little brother while he was shooting him while he was fleeing the scene. He injured him in the leg and the arm. I don't know. They're talking about of everything, how his response, defense-wise, how they're gonna rebuttal this. That's where they're at right now. He needs to get the chair. Oh yeah, he's getting life without parole for sure. This is crazy.
The intent to kill is so clear. His flight afterwards is so clear. The evidence.
And you know what's crazy? You know what's crazy, Mel? His father said, "What was that?" While he was shooting his brother, his other brother. The dad comes in, right? He sees the scene, right? And the last words he tells him, his name. I forgot his name. I don't really give a fuck about his name right now. You think his name is Elijah or something like that? He said, "Elijah, I'm sorry. I love you." After his father said that to him while he had the gun, shoots him 6 to 7 times. Fucking insane.
By his own family members begging for the money not to to kill him. The statements made by the father, the girlfriend, and the evidence. The case was very, very solid. It's one of those where the defense attorney, I think, looks at it and says, "Listen, this is the one I brought to the dance. I got to do my best to see if the government can prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt, but I don't think the defense was under any illusion other than that this was going to be a conviction and a life sentence for this individual.
No,
So
no
the
life
defense
sentence.
was, my
The
understanding,
death penalty.
faulty
Chair.
investigation. There was a misidentification, and that, well, if you have two guns, there were two shooters. There was something more nefarious. And I guess also the defense, I don't know this for sure, but I wonder if they also played up the fact, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you really believe a teenager, because he was a teenager at the time, would have gunned down his entire family in this fashion? Or does it make sense that this was, two different people that did it? So the faulty investigation, misidentification, two shooters. The jury didn't buy it, though.
Yeah, they didn't buy it. They came back with a verdict in 3 hours. So, I mean, they didn't buy it quickly. But listen, I mean, this is an argument that a defense attorney can make. I'm a big fan of defense lawyers making arguments about an investigation that was not complete. I think that this is a big problem in our country. I see it all the time. And as a former prosecutor, in fact, I'm dealing with it right now, some of the failure to properly investigate and not dot I's and cross T's. Jesse, listen, I've been at the scene. I've been there when the call comes in fresh from 911 that there's been a homicide. And I have watched people literally jump to conclusions in a heartbeat before they've gotten all of the evidence. And it's when you have this confirmation bias that starts to set in and they start getting sloppy with the investigation that things get missed. And there are many times, Jesse, that when I was in the power and I had the authority as the head prosecutor to reverse things, stop things, or do it, I would tell people to slow down. There were cases that we had where people jumped to the conclusion it was a medical event and a suicide, but yet it turned out to be a murder. And there have been times where they thought that there were many people that had no idea how close they came to having handcuffs put on them because investigators jumped to conclusions that later turned out not to be accurate. So I know that this is a big global question, but for me, a defense lawyer attacking a prosecution's sloppy investigation,
Sure.
Not only do you do it in that case, but it benefits everyone across the country.
Let me ask you this point about, there was a challenge for the prosecution here because this was the second trial. The first one ended in a mistrial because a prosecution witness confronted Childs on the stand. In fact, one jury member even said they can't remain impartial after what had happened, so a judge had to declare a mistrial. That's nothing that a prosecutor never wants to hear that. And it feels like there's a lot of pressure for the second time around, no?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you never, as a prosecutor, want to try the same case twice. It's like that proverb that they say, a person who
聞きたい音楽っていつどこで聞くか
That
変わ
should
りま
even be
せ
a
ん
mistrial. That should even be a mistrial. It's crazy.
same river and is never the same person. It's true. As time goes by and as more transcripts get created and as more times coverage that we've done together on certain trials is that
Come on.
I lament these prosecutors
I
who
think they're
are
gonna say something right here. We're gonna skip a
sloppy.
few
That's
because
not
they're
what
just
we're talking
they're
about
just
here, but in any event, cause
really
a
saying
reversal
nothing, to be
at a
honest.
point in time. Lawyers are going to be arguing that his youth, his inability to form mature thoughts or whatever should warrant a less sentence than if this was somebody who were an adult
bro.
that committed the same kind of conduct. But I think that the nature of this offense and the amount of victims is going to cause the judge to give the maximum sentence possible, and parole is likely, and listen, is likely to give him as much as they can. And look, a lot of this also depends with parole on how the family responds to this down the road. I'm going to presume, based on what I've read, that the family, especially of the pregnant woman, I mean, this is bad, about as bad as you get, right? That family is very active here, and they're gonna squawk, and a lot of times the squeaky wheel gets the grease when it comes to parole here. So I think that inures to the detriment of the defendant's early release.
I was struggling with what the defense could say at sentencing.
You can't.
Whether even the defendant makes a statement, what his attorneys would say, whether they call on
Only thing they could have said was mental health for him.
family members, or friends about the story that I think is just incredibly harrowing, is when you talk about the surviving brother, in this case XC, that he was shot in both his leg and his arm, yet he's able to get up, go to the neighbor's home, manages to stay alive long enough to make it to a hospital, becomes a key witness in this case. Talk to me about how is that even possible?
Jesse, it's a mystery. I've come on the scene of catastrophic shootings and things of that in my capacity as an emergency medical technician, where there are injuries to an individual that defy how this person is alive. and you marvel at it. And yet I've seen some situations in which a minor thing causes somebody to die. You know, when we go out on the rig, we say this all the time, and the call comes in, you never really know until you get there what you're going to be looking at. And I look at it from the standpoint of the EMTs that had to respond to an event like this, because you have to understand there had to be a massive law enforcement response and a massive EMS response. And when that happens in a mass casualty incident like this, you're going to all these different people and doing the best to triage them. And if there's individuals that you think can be saved, sometimes you have to make really catastrophic decisions that will stick with you for your life, because you may leave somebody behind that's still alive, but you don't think that they're going to be saved by the time they get to the hospital, and choose the person who's most likely to be saved. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. It's a situation we hate to be in. But in this particular case, from a legal point of view, we marvel at it, and prosecutors are thankful that that witness is there, because that witness is a key person to the case. And as an EMT,
I'm done. They're just saying everything about the case, and that's it. That was probably the most wild story I ever heard in my life.